Well, folks, as you can see, I have Steve Hart with me again, and we're going to talk about a subject that will unfold as it unfolds, and we'll come up with a title when we finish the discussion, which is not the way that I normally do things, as you know, but it's the way Steve requested that I do this video. So I'm doing it, and the truth of the matter is, sometimes when I've had conversations with Aristo and others, the title has been tweaked a little from where we began because of things covered. So Steve, take it away and we'll see how the conversation develops.
Great. Well, we'll see how this goes. Yes, I agree with you. Thank you. I want to start off with the quote from Jesus where he said, in this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. It's somewhere in the book of John, John 16:33, I think, I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is, I'll say it again. In this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Now, that scripture has probably been distorted greatly. But if you go back to the original Greek, you can actually understand what it is he was trying to say. And first, let me just describe the word world is not talking about the earth. It's talking about the system or the arrangement or the order in which the world has been put into. And when he was living, 2,000 years ago, from what we understand, he was living in the same world we are, even though it's a different level of structure or order, okay? Now, he said, in the world you will have tribulation. The word tribulation, what does that mean? Well, it means in the Greek, it means to be under pressure or to be oppressed or under stress, okay? That part is pretty much understood,
And pretty much experienced.
Yeah, and experienced by everybody. That's correct. That's correct. But he said, "Be of good cheer." Now, here's the word that gets. Well, everybody think be of good cheer, to be happy, to be joyous. The fact that we're having a tribulation, that makes no sense.
I agree.
Yeah, the real Greek word means to be courageous. He said, "Be courageous. Have courage." Because I have overcome the world. And the word overcome means to conquer. It means to have the right or the power to be open and to free yourself. That's what the word conquer means. So this quote from Jesus is a very powerful quote when you bring it into context as to what he was really saying in the Greek. And so it means to, in this worldly arrangement, you're going to be under pressure and oppression, but be courageous, for you have the ability to conquer and have the right and the power to be free from this world, to be free from this oppression. So that's what we're going to talk about, okay?
Okay, well, keep going and I'll interject when
yes, of course. Now, there is no question about it that we are under oppression, that we're being controlled. And yet at the same time, you and I can get in our car, we can go down to the grocery store and we can go to see a movie and we can go out and have a good time, go to the beach and so we feel as though that we have our freedom, And
we can have a coffee talk like we did yesterday.
Yeah, right. We get together and
meet with a couple of nice ladies and have a nice discussion.
And even have a like-minded connection, which was very, very powerful. It's amazing. So in some ways, we have this feeling as though that we're free, and yet there still feels there's this oppression that's there. Now, so what I'm trying to say to you is, we are capable of being freed from this oppression. We are capable of being courageous enough to step out of this oppression, to overcome and conquer, because we have the right and the power to do so. We can free ourselves from this enslavement, as we may refer to it.
I know you believe that. I used to as well, but I really have trouble believing.
I know you do.
I alone, or any individual alone, has any power at all.
I understand. I understand that. But that doesn't make it real any more than mine. You got your story, I have my experience. We mentioned this yesterday when we were talking.
Yes, I know.
We each have our own experience about how we experience it. But I'm also aware of what you're saying and what you're feeling, okay? Now, let me quote, this is another thing that we brought up yesterday in our discussion, this is a quote from Johann Goethe, is that his name? Goethe, Goethe.
I pronounce it Goethe.
Yeah, G-O-E-T-H-E, right.
Yeah.
He said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. I'm going to quote it again.
Yeah.
None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free.
Which includes most people in the United States and perhaps even the Western world.
The whole world.
Well, I don't know that people in third world countries see themselves as being free. Maybe they do, but I don't.
Well, I see what you're saying now. You're okay. Yes, yeah. That's true. So true. So that is true.
I mean, I know in most Muslim countries they feel very oppressed by the West. But
they still feel as though that they can walk out of their house and go down to the corner or wherever, you know.
Well, it depends on where they live. If they have fled their homeland, that might be true. But in their homeland, it's been troublesome.
Okay, but the key is the fact that they're falsely believe that they are free, and that's how you enslave someone. In fact, I just heard yesterday in New York City, they're now beginning to document and track the homeless people in New York City. It's a new system called, I forget what it's called, Smart World or something. I'm not sure what it is. And
anything with smart in it means it's really dumb and controlling.
Yes, of course. But the point is that it's actually become an open prison. You know, they're still in prison. They're still being tracked. They're still being controlled. Now, some people on the positive side would say, well, they're trying to keep track of the homeless people so they don't end up dying, and they know where they are, and in case they were to die, they know where to find them, whatever, you know. And the other side of it would say, well, yeah, but
their plan is to kill them anyway, so what difference does it make?
What's that?
I says the plan of the elite is to kill all the useless eaters anyway, so what difference does it make?
Okay, yes, I'm agreeing with you, but not everybody sees it that way,
right.
and that's what we're trying to bring out in the open here.
All right, and I'm sorry to keep
No, that's fine. What I want to do in this video is I want to help people define how it is that we become victims of this enslavement. Okay. Because even though we feel as though that we're free, there is this oppression, there is this pressure upon us to keep us under control and not to be totally free, not to be sovereign in the fact that we are spiritual beings just having a human experience. Rather, we identify more with our human side and the fact that we have to suffer or strive or have to work a job, there is this oppression upon us. Okay, so I want to go into the movie The Matrix, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to quote some of the things that are said in the movie. When Morpheus is talking to Neo, he's trying to help him understand what's going on, and Neo asks the question, well, what is the Matrix? And Morpheus says to him, he says, you see it when you look out your window, when you turn on your TV, you can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. He says it's a world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And then Neo says, well, what is the truth? He goes, Neo, you're a slave, born into bondage in a prison you cannot smell, taste, or touch. It's a prison of your mind. That's what he told him.
That would be a good title, Prison of Your Mind.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. It would be a good title. Thank you. So he's trying to describe to him what this matrix is. And later on in the movie, he expounds even more so. And then Neo begins to understand who he really is and what this matrix is all about. And then he's trying to learn how to go in and out of the matrix. And that's what we're being challenged to do, to be conquerors and to be courageous enough to accept, to understand the fact that we have been victimized, that we have been impressed or integrated with this program in our mind that imprisons us, that actually enslaves us. Now, the imprisonment is actually connected into our being and our consciousness, okay? And so what we have to do is we have to expand our consciousness to the truth of this and see the fact that we have been blinded to the truth of what's going on. All right.
Yeah, I can think of all sorts of things.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk about some specific things, okay?
Okay.
And I'm not gonna go into detail, but we can touch on a few of these if we want to. But there is definitely been an enslavement, a seduction, a control, even to the point where we become addicted to these things because we feel that our security or our identity is in these things. And for example, I'll start off with one: education. The educational system that we have here currently on Earth, as we know, provided by the government, is pretty much an educational system of enslavement, designed to help prepare people for either a job on the workforce or the military or to be imprisoned. It's and I hate to paint that picture, but I can tell you personal stories about how that is true, in my own experience and what I've seen. Now that's just one: education. The job force itself, the job market itself, there's a strong control as to the idea that the way management is set up within a corporation, or the fact that you're the employer and the employee, and how the dynamics and the paradigm behind how jobs are created, and how we, instead of learning to serve one another and actually work together and collaborate, there's this you're going to do as I tell you to do type thing, okay, which is part of the programming of the enslavement. Now let's talk about another one. There's some other things that are implemented into our society that help enslave us, and one of them is major one is television.
The major one is the monetary system.
Well, all right. Well, but not everybody goes. What do you mean monastery? Now, how many people go to the
monastery? Monetary.
Oh, monetary. Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you said monastery.
No.
the monetary. Well, but see, that's tied into the television thing, and you're right. Yeah, that one's been around much longer than television. You're right. But in the current world, most people are under this programming of enslavement through television. Now, because they're no longer in school, now they're watching television. Now, and notice I said programming. Isn't that kind of interesting that television programming, they call it TV programming, because it is programming you, is what's happening. Now, I've got rid of my television many years ago. And I'm no longer affected by that because I don't submit myself to it. And I'm very much aware of it when I'm in a room where television is on. I could feel the energy coming out of that, some people may think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, when you divorce yourself from it, you begin to feel the difference when you're around it. It's just like cigarette smoke. If you stop smoking years later, when you're around the cigarette smoking, you recognize it. But when you're a smoker, you don't recognize it as much. Now, let's talk about another area. We'll talk about the money. You brought that out, the monetary system, and that is true. Money itself is not evil, as Jesus implied. It's the love of money. It's the motivation behind the money, and the idea that we have to have this money to be able to be abundant, to be free. The truth of it is, the truth of what we really seek is not the money itself. It's the opportunities, the freedom to do whatever it is we want to do. That's true abundance. The law of abundance is about having the opportunities to be able to create and to experience whatever it is you want to experience. And we equate money. Well, money allows you to do that. Well, not always, but
true, not always.
But at the same time, in this world, in this program that we're living under, that's the idea. And so therefore we become enslaved with the idea that we have to make money, and end up people living their lives paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And they don't understand that their true wealth is within them. Our true wealth is within our gifts and strengths and talents to be able to give and share what it is that we have to give. And everybody has their own unique gifts, strengths, and talents. And it's been hidden within us. And this programming does not want you to see that. They want you to conform to society.
Which is a control grid.
Pardon?
which is a control grid.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is this, what I'm describing to you, the matrix, this enslavement, this imprisonment of our mind is a grid. It's right. And we all are tapped into it. Now, and later on, I'm going to talk just a little bit about how we can free ourselves from it. But I want to continue to describe some of the control of this programming, okay? Religion is another one. I myself, as you, was very deeply indoctrinated in Christian religion, and there are other religions that are
fundamentalism.
Yeah, right, fundamentalism, and it, especially when it's perpetrated upon us, that is the truth, that it is the freedom. Not that there's not any truth in it, because there is. The point is that we are indoctrinated with a particular mind frame, and it's still a controlling. It's about a controlling. Now, when you talk about the Holy Spirit and our relationship with God, there's total freedom in that. There is unconditional love. There is a freedom that when Jesus made reference to the Holy Spirit, that he will be a comforter, that he will bring these things to your remembrance, and he will show you things to come, and he will teach you and guide you. That is all true. But the church and different religions teach that, and yet they turn around and control you and say, you can't do this, you can't do that, and then they give you this mentality of who you are, and they're telling you you're a sinner or corrupted, and not understanding the fact that we're all victims of this oppression that we've been born into, this bondage that we've been born into. So the truth of it is to understand how we are truly who we truly are, and how we can free ourselves from it. So let's move on to another area. Time. Time is part of this system. And here's how I can say this. When you go to a movie, and you notice how when you walk in the movie, you sit down, and the movie begins to play. 2 hours or 3 hours could go by, and you're like, it's totally enthralled in the movie. And you walk out of the theater, and you go and you have to acclimate yourself to the fact that you just was in another dimension, another thought pattern, and almost as if the 2 hours went by just like that. It was very fast. So you lose time. You lose this awareness of time when you're in the movie theater watching the movie. If it's a good movie.
It's a good movie, and that's true of anything that you're enjoying.
What's that?
It's true of anything that you enjoy.
That's true. Anything. Like if you're driving down the road and your mind goes to a place as you're driving around, an hour later you're going, oh, I just drove 100 miles, it's amazing how we can go into altered states of consciousness. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that is proof that time really does not exist, only in our minds as we live in this 3D world. We have an idea of what we call time. Time, I don't want to get into the actual physics or the description of time itself, how it works, but the point is that time can be an enslavement, itself, okay? Let's talk about food. There's no question about it. We need food to survive on this planet, and there is food out there.
There are breatharians that don't.
What's that?
There are breatharians, those that live on breath alone.
Oh, well, yes. Well,
I've heard about them. I don't really know them personally.
Yeah, I was going to say those are exceptions. Yes, I have heard of that, and people who do sun gazing and thrive off of that. But the point I'm making is that the system that we're living in, this program, is corrupting our food or controlling our food, or making it in an abundance when it's not real food. It's not healthy for the body. They're just trying to feed the starving people, feed the people. But you notice it when you walk into a grocery store. It's amazing how much stuff is in the grocery store that's not real food. It's all processed food or manufactured food. It's not real, true grown food.
Yeah, I just saw a thing yesterday that somebody sent me that listed all the things that are contaminated in the average. It was pointing out Walmart, but it even said even Walmart has healthy food. You've got to pay attention.
Yeah. All right, so Medicine is another one. And we've been programmed to believe that when we're sick, we go to a doctor, we go to the hospital, whatever it is. And I understand the programming that's been instilled within us. At the same time, I've worked in the medical field. I know that they're only practicing medicine. They did not perfect it, and that the remedies that they give us are not always a healing service to us. It doesn't bring about
mask symptoms.
It will. It's exactly what it does.
New symptoms.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yet we've been programmed to go to the doctor, go to the emergency room. I used to work in the emergency room. I watched people come into the emergency room when I was working there, and they abuse the system because that's all they know to do. The whole object of what I'm talking about is to free ourselves from this system, to free ourselves from this oppression. So, in the mindset that we have to run to the doctor. Let me ask this question right here, because the whole healthcare thing is an issue right now among some people. It's interesting. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what should we be doing? And I said, well, let me ask this question. Where does the responsibility of our healthcare lie? Upon whom does it lie? And some people say, well, it's the government, or some people say it's the medical field.
It's ourselves.
That's exactly right. It's we need to take responsibility for ourselves, for our own health. And even when our vibration is lowered and we get sick or injured, we need to be aware of our bodies enough to be able to heal ourselves or to bring ourselves back up. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm not saying don't go to the hospital, because they do miraculous things. I mean, I've watched them do it. I've actually been in surgery and watched them do some amazing things. But doctors love to cut on you because that's how they make their money. And I'm just saying, be aware of yourself, take responsibility for yourself, and separate yourself from the system. Come into a new awareness, okay? So let's go on to another area. We're going to talk about, let's talk about, all right, we're going to talk about sex.
Is that why all the ums were in the place there?
What's that?
You had a couple of 2 or 3 ums before you could say.
Yeah, well, no. I have a list of things we're doing here, but I wanted to hit on the hot ones first. Sexuality. It's amazing how there's been an oppression of sexuality, or a distortion of sexuality, and the act of sex, of actually being in a relationship. And I'm not trying to define the relationships as much as I am to say that the system is designed to create a breakdown, and the reason is the system is thriving, has thrived so well is because it feeds upon itself, and the more distorted it can
parasitic.
Yeah, it's parasitic, and more it's distorted, it can actually become more destructive, and it gets more energy behind it. And that's why sex and numerous of these things can become an addiction, to the point where we become obsessed. And so it becomes unhealthy for us, and it's a distraction. Now, one of the areas I think is kind of interesting is sports. Among men, sports is really big, and women too sometimes. The point I'm making is that it's almost as if all that testosterone energy that we get built within us, it's part of our sexual drive, is shifted over into the sports, into the arenas of being competition and choosing your team and cheering for who it is you believe in. And so the focus is taken away from our true sexuality, our true nature of who we are, and shifted over into a competition thing about competing and my team versus your team, and so we're caught up in the duality of the sports and life itself,
rather than cooperation.
Yeah. So, and here again, I'm not against sports. I believe that sports is a great activity. I just don't get caught up into the hoopla of this team, that team. I've actually have performed and met numerous sports figures and didn't even know who they were. I mean, I'll never forget, I was in California and working, doing a show in Hollywood. A man comes up to me and wants to see if my hand's the same size as him because I palm a ball. And the guy walks away, and the host said, "Did you know who that was?" I said, "No." That was Kobe Bryant. I go, "Oh my, I didn't know who he was, at the time." It just shows you how alert I knew who he was, but I didn't know him by seeing his face or meeting him at the time. And I've met numerous sports figures like that. The point I'm making is I'm not plugged into that program. That's not something I give attention to, as I've divorced myself from all of these programs as much as I can. Now, the next one is law enforcement, the judicial system, the police state, the whole concept of being controlled. And in this program, in this matrix, in this world, there is law and there is oppression or control of law, supposedly to bring peace. But as the world has it evolved on its own, it thrives upon itself, and therefore it becomes corrupted. And they're making money off of the slaves, off the people who are victims of the law or the judicial system. And there's a lot of money being made in that area. So here again, so we need to become aware of who we are, what our rights are, and how to divorce ourselves from these so-called laws or statutes that have been recorded and put upon us. I love the fact that we can actually minimize those laws and go back to what we call the law of common law, or what's the word I'm looking for? Universal laws. I mean, if we just go back to the basic laws and use them,
the common sense laws.
Right. Then those are really what we need. Those are the laws. It's not like we're a lawless. The kingdom of God is not a lawless world. The kingdom itself is in peace and harmony with itself, but you have to align yourself with that, and so that's the only way you can have that experience. All right. Well, there are some other areas like
but we're all running sort of toward the half-hour mark.
Okay. Well, corporations, industry, technology, all these things are part of the system that is controlling us and is being abused. So, to wrap this up, how do we free ourselves from this? How do we get out from under this matrix, this oppression, and this programming that we've been programmed? How do we free ourselves from it? Well, the only way to really free yourself from a program is by replacing it with another program. And that's what this spiritual awakening is all about. The only way you can free yourself from this is it has to be changed from within. And the change within has to do with the way we think. It can't be just an idea. It has to be not only the thought pattern, but it becomes a behavioral pattern. So we have to begin to act differently. For example, we talked about a while ago about getting rid of our television. That was an actual behavior choice to divorce ourselves from the world, from this cosmos, from this arrangement that we're living under. The matrix that we're living under. We got rid of the television. It was a behavioral choice. And there are numerous other things that we can do to set ourselves free. So remember, it's a work done within the heart, not just within the mind. We are really not our mind. Our mind is just a playground for thoughts, for us to communicate with the world. The truth of it is there's the heart or the mind of the heart. And the resonance between the brain and the heart is what brings us into our true awareness. That's the only way to be free from this. It's coming into the awakening of who you are. And the only way you can do that is by connecting to your higher self, by doing meditation, by opening yourself up. As it just said, to conquer means to have the right and the power to be open, and to free yourself. There you go.
29 minutes, just under 29 minutes right now. But anyway, there's all sorts of things that came up, and we could have taken many tangents on this discussion.
Oh, yes.
What you've talked about basically is the individual freedom. I've looked for freedom for humanity. I mean, I look at the bigger picture and how are we as a human society going to be liberated from the intolerant system that has been established, and that's another subject, and we can't get into it now. But
Well, my response to that is none of that will happen until the individual begins to replate themselves.
Well, yeah, but it takes a certain number of individuals
and that number
to shift the rest of it.
And that's what we're doing right now. We're sharing this with other people to help increase that number, because it is increasing. It is making an impact. It's like ripples in a pond. You drop, you create the energy behind it, and it ripples out, and that's what's happening. And that's how
there is an awakening going on, and I just wish some things would proceed a little more quickly. But then again,
me too. But we can only happen as fast as we allow it.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Well, thank you very much, and hang in there. And
thank you.
If I'm going to stay on. Yeah.
Right.
Namaste for now.
Blessings. Bye-bye.